Boxingego here. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon on the top of your screen to get notified when the latest new content drops. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button, and if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button for the latest and greatest in boxing. So basically, I just watched the behind the scenes, behind the ropes Sky Sports special for Brook Spence, and it was very good. Shout out to the British boxing fans. UK has been lit for the last few years. They've been putting on some, even when the American broadcasts and stuff are falling apart. Like there's, for example, HBO, some of the shows that they pioneered, like HBO Face Off and 24/7, they kind of got away from it. But the UK, it takes money to make money. In the UK, with their fan base and the loyalty of their fan base, they get it. And what they're doing is they're still doing their best to create these specials. I've seen a bunch of promos for upcoming fights, like Joshua Klitschko, just real cool promo edits and behind the scenes, and they're giving a lot of spotlight when they have a UK fighter going to battle. You know what I mean? Joshua Klitschko, even last year, Kell Brook versus Triple G, or now Kell Brook versus Errol Spence Jr. And I appreciate it as a boxing fan. This was well put together, and I liked the show. Very good insight. I want to give my thoughts. First of all, I gotta say I apologize. Normally I try to link up to all of the stuff that I watch, but I got a little connect, so I was able to watch this particular show. I don't have a link for you guys, and if you don't live in the UK, then I don't know how you guys can watch this, right? But I want to tell you what I thought of it, and I'm sure you can probably find it floating online somewhere at some point, even if you live in the US. It's fight week, big fight, Bramall Lane, Kell Brook's backyard, Sheffield, UK, and it's going down. The venue holds like about 33,000 people roughly, and this is a huge welterweight fight. And this is a fight where Errol Spence, he's been requesting this, he's been asking for it. He's putting hashtag man down. He looks focused, he looks ready, he sounds confident, and Kell Brook sounds confident. So when I was watching the behind the ropes, I liked a lot. They obviously touched on the Golovkin fight, which was Kell Brook's only professional loss, and subsequently it was his last fight. And I always like when the specials like HBO 24/7 or the behind the ropes special, I like when they give the insight and have the fighter kind of narrating a major fight that they were in. I remember HBO 24/7, I think it might have been Juan Manuel Marquez for the Bradley fight, and he was talking about how he knocked out Pacquiao. HBO was kind of talking about how they had a mutual opponent in Manny Pacquiao, and Marquez was documenting how he knocked Pacquiao out in the fourth fight, and he was just telling how Manny Pacquiao does this stutter step, and he remembered that he always does that, and then he blasted him with the right. So it was good to hear the Kell Brook perspective on his first pro loss. I love that type of insight. I mean, we as fans can look from the outside looking in and see what we see, but I want to hear what the fighter was thinking during the fight. And he basically said he was documenting how, I think it was the second or third round, he got popped in the eye, and they showed the clip, and he says, I instantly felt pain and I knew something was wrong with my eye, and they show he's kind of pounding at it. It was very apparent to me. You can clearly see something was wrong with his eye. I remember I watched the fight in real time. I was watching it live as it was happening, and he did good in round 2, and then shortly after, you seen something was wrong with his eye. This wasn't a Pacquiao versus Mayweather where it's some freak injury and there's no symptoms of that injury until after post-fight when they're at a press conference. Like, my shoulder. Like, it's nothing like that. We seen something was bothering him because he kept pawing at his eye. Like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And if you know body language and you're observant, have two sets of eyes, you could have seen that something was wrong with Kell Brook. So I really like how they gave that insight. He said it was kind of hard because I was seeing 5 of Golovkin, so I don't even know which one to hit. So obviously his vision was impaired, and his corner made the decision to stop it. And he also says that he believes Golovkin, they showed the clip, Golovkin was like, hey, Kell Brook, he's huge, but he's not middleweight. And Kell Brook, from his perspective, he was basically saying, I think someone told Golovkin to say that because he had to save face. I was getting off with some shots, and Golovkin knew that it would be kind of, for lack of a better word, embarrassing if he admitted that he felt the welterweight's power. So he thinks that Triple G was bluffing, or someone told him to say that, because, you know what I mean, you don't want to be like, yeah, the smaller guy moved up 2 weight divisions and I felt his punches. So he just dismissed it totally. And I said that to me, that's possible. I really don't buy this whole Golovkin. I think he has a good chin, right? I think Golovkin is tough. I can buy he's never been knocked out or knocked down in sparring or amateur or pro fights. I get that. That's definitely possible. But I don't believe, just me personally, I don't believe that Golovkin is this immortal or this indestructible force where he fought all these guys and gets hit with shots and he doesn't feel it. And he feels no pain. That's not how the human body is made up. You know what I mean? If a guy's hitting you and he has power, known power, I'm sure you feel it. And more indication, Golovkin said, oh, I've never been hurt. I doubt that. I mean, he's maybe never been on Queer Street hurt, like so bad he was just rocked like that. But I'm sure he felt shots from certain fighters. And again, to me, it's apparent in how Golovkin fights. If Golovkin fights, if he's fighting against an immense puncher like David Lemieux or Danny Jacobs, he fought them differently. You know what I mean? What would be the reason for that? If you don't never get hurt and nothing hurts you, why did you fight Danny Jacobs and work behind the jab? And pretty much the people that are saying you won, they say you won because of your jab. You know what I mean? You work behind the jab versus David Lemieux. That's because he respected their power. You know what I mean? I don't care what no one says. And I think Danny Jacobs hurt him to the body, and I think he might have even hurt him with headshots. And then after the fight, they said, oh, he's a bit sore and banged up, so we can't fight Billy Joe Saunders, even though our goal is to unify. So let me know what you guys think of what Kell Brook said. He thinks he was kind of told, coach, to say that just so he could, like I said, save face that a welterweight couldn't hit him. But back to Brook Spence. Another thing I liked about this special is they showed Kell Brook sparring. You know what I mean? Just little snippets. He was sparring a super middleweight from the UK, Jamie Cox, and that's good to see him sparring someone bigger. And Cox, they interviewed him, and he was just basically saying Kell Brook has good accuracy and things like that with picking off his shots and getting his shots. Dominic Ingle, his trainer, was saying what he likes about Kell Brook is he's had ups and downs, the eye injury versus Golovkin and the loss. He got stabbed in the leg, unrelated to boxing, but his leg was, you know what I mean, doctor said he might not be able to walk. And through it all, Kell Brook always bounces back, and he always does the work, and he always performs to the best of his ability, and he always trains hardcore and stuff like that. So I like that. Kell Brook said he's highly motivated for this particular fight, and he says his eye, he has a bit of titanium in his eye, and he's good. He said he's tested out in sparring. That's not an issue, and he said he's at 100%, and his trainer pretty much corroborated that. So that's what I like about this fight. If Errol Spence wins fair and square, then I don't want to hear a bunch of excuses and, oh, it was because the Golovkin. He's saying he's good. This is his natural weight, or the fight weight that he's been undefeated at, so it is what it is. He sounds very motivated. He was talking about how for training camp he's just dialed in. He says he doesn't want anything to deviate from the plan, so they're all living together, I guess, you know what I mean, in the whatever compound or whatever situation, living situation, so there's no distractions, and he's really dialed in. He also said making the weight was a bit hard, you know what I mean, so I appreciate his honesty. We'll see what that effect has when he's taking body shots and stuff like that by Errol Spence, because it's hard to imagine Errol Spence not being able to get any body shots off. But basically what Kell was saying about the weight is he ballooned up and gained weight to jump 2 divisions to fight Golovkin in middleweight, and then he lost that fight, had to get surgery. So being inactive after that, he says he's naturally a big guy, moving up to middleweight plus being inactive after the fight, and probably taking the loss too. I'm sure that sets your confidence back a little bit. You don't feel like necessarily beasting it up in the gym. He said he gained even more weight, so he said he had to come down from even higher than middleweight when he got word that he was going to take this fight. But he said he's making his targets, and it took sacrifice, but he was able to achieve what he needed to achieve and arrive at the weight, and that's not going to be an issue. So weight was an issue that they had to monitor, and I guess he has to do a lot to make welterweight. He is pretty big. He's a big welterweight for sure. He can clearly move up to 54 at least. It just doesn't make sense to do radical 2 weight class jumps unless you really filled out and establish yourself as the best in your current division. That's my personal opinion. Then they were eating dinner, and it was the whole camp. They talked about something I thought was cool. A lot of the people that sparred and have been with Kell Brook in his camp for X amount of time, he got them a spot on this card, which is a big card in the UK. And it was just like him showing his appreciation. I believe in loyalty, so I thought that was real cool that he looked out for people that got him ready for some of his big fights, the Sean Porter fight or the Golovkin fight. I thought that was real cool that he looked after those people by giving them an opportunity to showcase their talent on his card, on a big card, you know what I mean? And making some kind of way that they got a spot and a slot on the Brook Spence card. I thought that was cool. Then Dominique Ingle, where they're eating dinner, he says Kell Brook ordered the fish, and he's like, oh, the fish came out from the Atlantic Ocean today. And he says, and the funny thing is, Errol Spence Jr., he's flying across the Atlantic. So he says the fish came from the Atlantic, and he's about to eat him. Now Errol Spence is flying over the Atlantic. Next week he's about to eat him, so he's just getting prepared. So they basically kind of made an analogy or metaphor to the fish and Errol Spence Jr. So I thought that was kind of funny. Other than that, it was a good episode. In closing, Kell Brook said that, and this was kind of surprising, but not really to me because I agree with it. But he said, Kell Brook said that he's trained, he's dialed in, he's focused, and he believes Errol Spence Jr. is his toughest fight to date. So that's pretty impressive that a guy who hasn't really fought a top welterweight name, top welterweight name, who's like undefeated or anything, or once beaten, you know what I mean, fought Chris Algieri, Leonard Bundu, and before the fight, Kell Brook believes that Errol Spence is his toughest fight, especially coming off of the heels of the Golovkin fight. So that's pretty impressive to me, because you mean to tell me jumping up 2 weight classes and fighting Golovkin, that was a challenge, and obviously he stopped you, but you're still perceiving and training as if Errol Spence is a bigger threat. And it remains to be seen. We'll see on May 27th if that's true, if Errol Spence is the bigger threat than Golovkin. But I agree with it because styles make fights. To me, Golovkin is a very good fighter, very offensive, but he's slow. You know what I mean? There's certain things like that. Like, for example, I really don't believe if Errol Spence was naturally at 160 and he was doing what he's done at, let's say, all of his fights at welterweight, the Algieri and Bundu, let's say those were performances at 160, I don't see Kell Brook jumping up 2 weight classes to fight Errol Spence Jr. if Errol Spence was at 160. But obviously he did it versus Golovkin. Even though he came up short, I think it's because he believes there was something in Golovkin's style that he felt he could beat. Even though he came up short, he clearly thought he had the slickness or whatnot to beat him. But for him to say Errol Spence is his toughest fight, that was pretty important point of this behind the ropes. Let me know what you guys think. Drop it in the comment section. All I know is I'm looking forward to this fight. I did do the Boxingego weapons, 6 things Kell Brook can do to beat Errol Spence Jr. and 6 things Errol Spence Jr. can do to beat Kell Brook. That's just me basically playing coach, giving my keys to victory and letting you know what I think both fighters need to do in order to beat their opponent on May 27th. And it remains to be seen. Some people have been asking for the 7 reasons. I didn't forget. I still got like Monday mail day, and I appreciate everyone for leaving donations. Again, I'm just trying to facilitate to get all these. There's just so much happening in boxing, and Monday mail days and 7 reasons and 6 things, all these type of videos, they require a lot more time and a lot more work to conduct and produce because they're more detailed and they're longer. So I'm trying to get everything done, hopefully get like additional editor, different sets of eyes to help out with that process, so I can kind of focus on the specials and some of the other stuff that I know you guys like. So just stay tuned, hit the subscribe button. I got a lot of stuff coming. I'm just trying to get through everything. It's just boxing is just on a roll, on a crazy tear, and there's a lot going on. But let me know if you watched the Behind the Ropes, if you're in the UK or somehow seen it somewhere else. I'm looking forward to the fight. Since it was a Sky Sports telecast, they didn't really have Errol Spence on this episode. I don't know if they're doing additional parts, but he wasn't really on this particular part. It was more towards their fighter, Matchroom's fighter, and Kell Brook. Let me know what you guys think. Is Errol Spence Jr. the toughest test, the toughest fight of Kell Brook's career over Shawn Porter, over guys like Gennady Golovkin at middleweight? Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Make sure you share the video, like the video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button. And you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.